Yeah. Well, you,
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
I had somebody, this was somebody who actually, I had meeting job for. And he called me after. I didn't want a job.
so I'm finally referred to a specialist
Thank
at
God.
OSU.
How long has it been? Year and a half?
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Hey, how are ya? See ya.
See you too.
Hi. Daniel.
I do have vision.
Fog up and then I get my fingers all over them.
Bill, you don't want to get your fingers on your glasses. Probably not a good thing.
It's not.
I don't need to be on the record with that. Although a friend of mine said his eye doctor told his children, either on your face or in the case, which I thought was awesome.
Right, but it's impossible to follow those
Of
rules.
course, yeah, I still thought it was funny.
On my head, in my hands, in my pockets.
That's right.
Seems like this
That's why I have two
awful
pair.
for me.
Yeah.
Did you wear contacts you wore contacts forever though?
No,
You didn't, I thought you didn't.
no, I didn't have to have glasses until I hit 50,
How nice for you. I got them at 11 once.
especially with all the close-up work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could do both of them.
All the close-up hand work I still do.
Whoa.
What is that?
I lost my cat guy to Florida. Too late in the game to find another one. I'm just going for broke.
Sliding into the home flight right there,
Where are
right?
you going to?
Well, I'm trying to get an appointment right now.
Okay, yeah.
What kind of, what are they called?
Hmm,
What are they called? What is their specialty?
neurology, Flexor Center. It's for my balance.
He said Bill, you're getting the right doctor. Cynthia's opinion.
There's a stranger.
All right.
Hey,
Good.
all right. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday, March 3rd, 2022 Brewery District Commission meeting. Hard to believe it's March. I didn't think that was really our agenda. Seems so far into the year
That's
already.
right, that's right.
So welcome, everyone. Our next monthly business meeting will be Thursday, March 24th, 2022 at noon. Our next commission hearing, April 7th, Thursday, 2022, same room. Can I swear in the staff, please? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do, Connie Corbeck, Assistant Historic Preservation Officer.
Thank you. Connie, are you gonna do a roll call or do we do a sound off? I forget.
Sound office.
Matt, you want to start?
Matt Leisure.
William Hugus.
Cynthia Hunt.
Jeffrey Pongonis?
Patrice Allen Brady.
Daniel Mather.
You. Connie, do we have minutes to approve from our January meeting?
Yes.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve those minutes into the record?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Anything to kick us off here today with Connie or?
We also had, because the February meeting was canceled, there was, I think there was one staff approval on the February agenda.
Okay, got it. Is that staff recommendation one or is that staff approval in the record?
Can you click on that, staff approval? No, sorry.
previous 2202.
Is it 220301? Or, sorry, wasn't trying to make a mountain out of this
No, that's
molehill.
okay, just, and then scroll down, I think we have, no, actually, there were several. So,
So 102,
yeah, 20,
03,
yeah,
and 04.
exactly.
Got it. Okay, so can I have a motion to record those into our records, please?
So moved.
Yeah, second.
Thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, staff recommendations, BD 2203-001.
Oh, yes, 893 South Wall Street. You want to come up, Mr. Michelle?
So you're.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon. Okay, can I have your name for the record, please?
Yeah, my name is Matt Mushef. I'm the owner at 893 South Wall Street.
Thank you. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Would you like to tell us what you're thinking about today, or Connie, would you like the staff report first?
Yeah. Okay, so this is for a rooftop canopy. And some background is that a 14 by 12 rooftop pergola was approved at 43 West Whittier Street, which is the southern tier condos, and the first one that was approved in May 2021 with the following requirement. This is from the commissioner's motion. Any future applications for rooftop pergolas within this development are to be the same design or very similar in design to the True X, whatever how that's pronounced, pergola, and are to be set back from the street and from public view as much as possible. The pergola at 43 West Whittier Street is set behind the doghouse doorway, which is near the front of the building. The BDC guidelines do not address rooftop structures. However, the city's most recent guidelines, the Short North Design Guidelines, state rooftop structures and spaces should be complementary to the principal building with minimal visual impact to the streetscape. For that reason, recommend that the proposed awning be set behind the doorway to be consistent with the guideline previously set for the southern tier condos.
So Connie, just for some clarification, does the proposal meet the requirements that we've discussed, or it breaks from those?
Well, it's not the same pergola. It doesn't have legs or posts, but it's similar in design, coming out from the doghouse, which the other one did too. The only difference is the current proposal does not have it set back behind the doorway on the doghouse, which is what the commission required of the pergola. So it's similar in design, the materials, just doesn't have.
Oh, got it. So is it, Bill, am I reading that right? It's aligned with the doghouse, is that right? Or Matt, I don't know if you can tell.
Correct. So the
Mr. Commissioner can tell you.
the previous structure that was approved, the rooftop patios vary a little bit depending on if you have a doghouse on one side or both sides. Whereas the one that's previously approved had the doghouse, but then had open air basically on the other side. So you needed to have a more permanent structure because you had no legs, nothing to support an awning on the other side. So on our rooftop, we have our doghouse on one side, which lines up with the doghouse of our neighbor as well. So we have two higher built areas to be able to connect horizontal beams to, so we don't need anything vertical coming up. So based on the drawing here, we're looking at something that's has horizontal posts, but then would be fabric kind of in between those. So we kind of chose, based on the size of it, it would fit perfectly to do 5 4-foot sections there. You can kind of see from the pictures that were provided, there is a slight view from the street, but Wall Street being a more residential area, and even the picture being taken from, across the sidewalk, there really still isn't too much visual, even with being spaced above the door. We would prefer to have it spaced above the door just because that area gets very hot. That stairwell, just because that isn't connected to the air conditioning there, there's just like a vented fan. So having that extra kind of drapery above that would help to kind of keep some of that area and that door well a little bit cooler in the summertime. So our preferred design would be that fit perfectly, that 20-foot span. But obviously we want to make sure we fall in line
Can
with
you show us the
your
picture
recommendations.
that shows the streetscape with the drawings of the elements from the streetscape? My recollection is there's a picture that actually shows, yeah, there it is. Yeah, it's right there. So you can see it.
The previous one we approved was facing Whittier.
Correct.
And in that case, we shoved it back behind the door,
So
so
you couldn't see
visibility
it.
was lessened.
Right. Were you aware of the recommendation that we wanted it behind the door?
I know that they wanted it pushed back, but I also know, just based on the design of that pergola, it was more square in nature. So I didn't know that was a firm recommendation. But I also know we also face a more residential street, being Wall Street. So I wasn't sure if that provided some flexibility either.
And the two dog houses line up
Correct.
in terms of plan.
Yeah.
This is, you seen it faces east towards Wall Street? Do I have my bearings right? Bill? Got it.
So it has less of a distant
Less.
view than on Whittier.
Right.
And we did try to keep the materials and colors very consistent with the building as well. The rails are all of black aluminum, which matches the window inserts and things. And then the fabric we picked was kind of a taupe beige, something that was more neutral. So, we knew with even just a little bit being viewable, we didn't want it to stand out necessarily within the unit.
My issue really is the step back. I don't care about the vertical, but it's still visible from the street, so I struggle with that. I get that you're saying it's less of an impact because of where it is.
I can go either way. I mean, we told the other people they should step it back,
Exactly,
but I see the point about not being made thoroughfare. So.
exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we gotta be consistent with what we've already approved, right?
Yeah.
Okay. As long as we would meet that step back, I mean, based on the drawing, we can remove the front 4 feet. So that way it would shrink it down from 20 feet in width to 16. I mean, would that meet then the commission's approval?
The only question I have is the color. Was the other one that we approved, what was the color of the awning?
Remember that,
It didn't have an awning, it had louvers.
Oh, that's right.
And it's a full aluminum structure.
Is it the same, is it a taupey color or a beigey color?
It's a light brown, I believe.
It's a darker.
Like dark bronze or some such thing.
And if it does make any difference, that unit is our HOA president, who also was involved in the HOA approval of our unit as well. So she's very aware of what she put into her unit as well as what we were potentially proposing for others.
Well, I guess I have less of an issue with the color just because of how it's
It's
situated.
close, yeah. That's the
I do
color.
agree, moving it back to beyond the door,
Okay.
west of the door would probably be consistent with what we're already started approving.
And that still leaves you with, how many increments are there? 1, 2, 3,
16 by
4,
17 or 13 something.
right?
Yeah, that's still, I think we would all agree, that's still a fair patio. That's the size of a nice dining room, yeah, Bill?
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, I mean, I'm okay with that. It's an adjustment we can easily make by just removing a rail and a row of fabric. So-
Okay, can I hear a motion?
I move to approve,
I'll second.
pushing it back
Oh.
4 feet.
Sorry. Second the amendment.
You can insert the numbers. He was
Yes.
having trouble finding them.
Great, thank you. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, motion passes. Thanks.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, good luck. All right. On to new applications. Connie, is that application number 2203-002?
Yeah. 915 South Front Street.
On up. Hi there, can I have your name for the record, please?
Patrick Mulligan.
Thank you, Patrick. Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Connie?
And Daniel's brother or something?
Yes.
Okay, so this has a few different parts, new windows, which were already removed and installed, final windows. Installing new siding because some siding has been removed, exterior painting of the previously tainted brick and stone, and repair of an existing vinyl soffit. The work was begun prior to review and approval when a code order had been issued. The main entrance for the house, originally on the facade, was converted to a window sometime after 1960. They did actually do a good job. You could hardly tell that it was a door there. A one-story side addition was then built as a new main entrance. In addition, at least 2 north elevation windows were bricked in, and a second floor window was converted to a doorway with an exterior spare. There's a small window opening in the small inset porch and 2 large window openings onto the interior space of the side addition. In other words, this is outside, this is looking inside.
When was that porch enclosure
I don't
built
know, I mean,
approximately?
after the 1961 or 64 photo,
Okay.
but I don't know exactly when.
But you didn't know.
We haven't been able to find anything on
Okay.
the outside of either.
All right. And so, let's see, there are no known photos showing original windows on the side of the addition, so we don't know what was on that odd addition there. Until the ones were removed, which were, we have pictures of those, they had the big diamond patterns in them. Let's see, so business meeting comments included, what is the reason for removing some window openings on the rear elevation? And paired or triple 1/1 double hung sash should be installed on the side addition to match the character windows on the remainder of the building. So, in other words, I think Commissioner were saying, instead of these sliding windows or whatever they are, there should be paired or triple. Double hung.
Whatever it was. This is side by side.
Double hung.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And new wood or hardy lap siding should be installed on the side and rear additions. And window sizes should match the original openings. So recommend approval of the installation of new wood or cementitious siding to match the original profile and exposure. Repair of existing vinyl soffit, noting that all of the vinyl soffit can't be removed and replaced with vinyl. If you're going to do that, then you have to go back to wood. Let's see, new wood or hardy lap siding should be installed on, I already said that. Boston Place. And exterior painting also with colors to be submitted to staff. Recommend installation of new windows with a complete window quote to be submitted to staff.
All right, so anything you'd like to discuss with us this afternoon?
No, so when we went in there originally, that back addition that they added whenever, a lot of that was rotting out. That's why we started replacing with the OSB. We were worried that it wasn't gonna hold much longer. So we went and replaced some of the studs, joists, replaced some of that sheathing.
And you're gonna re-side that with either hardy lapped?
Yeah, with either hardy or the wood flat patch. The windows we're gonna use from the approved list. We just have those in temporarily to keep it sealed. I believe we submitted that on window list. And then all the paint colors that you guys need, that'll be we'll submit those later.
Yeah, staff. Yeah.
You want to talk about the rear of building? What do you think? Like, what is behind this little window opening? Well, need like the same size?
Yeah, so we're just gonna,
Here, why were these removed? That's my question.
so we're just gonna replace the windows with the light openings. So we have it all temporarily sealed up, but
Okay.
we'll order, so
For the
that little small
Standard
window.
height, right? Standard height all the way around.
Standard what?
Height?
Yeah,
Yeah.
But that's not what is shown on your rendering. Can you go to the rendering? So that's not what's shown there. So there were two windows on the first floor.
on which part?
Right here. There was a window here, and there was a window here. And you have those not being shown.
In the original house.
Is this facing an alley in the back?
Yeah, it faces those railroad tracks.
Yeah.
Oh, the road.
So-
Even better.
The backyard is just directly.
Lewis, would you go to page 3 for us in the PDF? I think that's a photograph of there it is. Connie, you're suggesting those windows that, thank you.
So these were window openings, maybe it's okay to remove them, but why, one of the questions was, why were they removed?
So that's the interior of that is where the kitchen was. We were hoping to remove those to add more cabinet space. We figured with it being facing the back, it's fenced in on both sides from the neighbors. We figured it wouldn't have much of a historical impact on the look. People won't be able to see it.
Same for both windows.
Correct.
They're both in, got it. And yeah, okay.
I mean, typically the rear facade, as long as it's not viewed from the public right away, we're more liberal about making changes to it.
Yeah, and that's the original addition. That's an addition to the original house, right?
Correct. It's an older edition.
When do we think the additional is? Just out of curiosity.
I mean, the addition is old.
It's old.
Historic, so. I mean, the window openings, in generally, we don't eliminate window openings. They've been, I mean, this one looks like an original window, this one doesn't. This one's up here doesn't, or we don't know what was there.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's, and then the one up there in the corner, it even at one point, can you go to it, see another photo that's right there. So you can see somebody they put 4 just big pieces of glass in here. So we don't know what was there. So, I'm assuming that should be maybe.
Early on, it was a double hung.
Right.
Back then, pretty much everything was double hung.
Well, but it's a very wide opening now, so it would have to be probably 2.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, we're not sure if the people who owned it before us adjusted some of the openings.
Oh, yeah, I mean, who
They
knows?
added a whole addition, so we're not entirely sure, but what our renderings was to the best of our knowledge how it looked, minus taking out those 2 windows for more cabinet space in the kitchen since it's facing the rear.
So this rendering is what you want it to look like or what it currently exists, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both.
But ultimately, and this is what you plan on building.
So you're proposing
This is our proposal.
for the rear.
Right.
Because we have basically said every other facade that's viewable from the street, we want you to move to the double. So the question is the rear facade
We still would, I think, like to see double hungs there.
at the top.
Top right.
The
Yeah.
top right, a pair of them.
Yeah, the windows, so much, we're not worried, we'll go with whatever style is required. It's more so the openings that we're looking for approval of.
If that's a bedroom, you're gonna need it to be a certain size as a double hung anyway for egress, so.
What's behind the
Oh.
little window?
Behind that little one is a bedroom. So on that back addition, it's split down the middle and there's a bedroom on each side.
Okay, but it's not a bathroom or something that would indicate the reason for the little window.
No,
And that little window, it's just, I mean,
That's
as far
how-
as you know, historically there,
that's how it's currently framed.
right?
Does the framing look old on the inside?
It looks older, but not like as original that
Okay.
addition.
Could you just make that one a full-size window?
Yeah, we could do that.
Just so the top row, make them full-size double hung.
So the whole second story could be a pair of double hungs, a single double hung, and on the north side, a pair of double hungs on the second floor.
And then the double hungs on the,
Well, yeah.
little porch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else worth noting, Connie?
I don't think so.
Okay, does someone want to make a motion describing the window magic we just reviewed?
I don't want to make that motion.
Bill, I think you just sort of go for
Throw
it.
me under the bus.
You're welcome.
I move to approve BD 2203-002 915 South Front as presented, with the exceptions changing all windows to be double hungs in a more historic proportion in the same locations that you're showing on your sketch.
And when the opening is larger than a single double hung, make it be 2.
Double hungs, yes. And using hardy 4-inch lap to 5-inch lap siding and corner boards for staff.
For staff approval.
Except for the rear of the building, lower story, you've got taken away 2 windows and you put in the sliding doors. And I think we're okay with that.
I think we're.
There were already, that opening was there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm just, it just wasn't part of his motion, so just
Could I-
amending.
Please.
Could I ask to give a reason why you are allowing the 2 window openings on the first floor to be closed?
I think we stated that this was an alley facing rear part of the house on an addition. We have very little historic record of the house anyway, and we have generally been more flexible in nature on the rear of houses. I think that's what I heard.
Mhm.
It's not even now, it's a railroad tracks.
Yeah, in the river.
Right.
So no view from the street.
Okay, good job, Bill, and others. Okay, fantastic. Can I have a motion to approve that, or
A second.
did I say that right? Motion to approve? Yeah.
Second. You did the motion, I'll second.
Yes. Can I have a second? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, motion passes.
And next time you'll call in advance,
Keep close contact with Connie because she
Yeah.
can lead you in the right direction.
before you get started?
If you have a problem.
Yeah, we were just.
Not a district too, so.
Okay.
Great. All right, great.
Great, thanks for protecting a house for us.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work in the neighborhood too.
Okay, Connie, so we are, that was application, was that number 3?
Two.
That was 2. Okay, number 3 is,
So we do not have Tori.
right.
So long here.
Okay, so we'll start with, or, I'm sorry, I'm looking at it too far. 2203, 003, 841, 843 South Front Street, and a whole series of other addresses. Come on up. Someone give Randy a chair, please.
I'm gonna probably stand.
I'm gonna be
Okay.
getting out of the way soon.
Sounds like no one wants to. Is this like a hot potato? That was a great setup, by the way. Welcome, gentlemen. Can I have your names for the record, please?
Jim Maniaci, half law firm.
Thank you.
Randy Black, preservation consultant on this project.
Hi, Randy.
And John Hyman, MA Architects, architect of record.
Great, thank you. Can you raise your right hands, please? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Connie?
Okay, so this is, and I will rebuttal those addresses.
Yeah.
They are. So 835 South Front is the historic brick house, 841 to 843 South Front is the brick warehouse, and 66 to 68 West Whittier is the multi-story office building.
Okay,
And so this is the second conceptual review, although it's quite different from the first conceptual review, completely different design. The commission at the business meeting asked for your comments from the August 2021 hearing, so I will just read those. That new penetration, doors, windows, openings would not be approved for the south and east elevations, but could be considered on the north elevation. Considers the two industrial buildings and the house to be contributing structures. Also, another commissioner considers all the buildings to be contributing buildings. And another commissioner, the south and east facades of the warehouse building need to be preserved, and the house provides an important transition between the proposed project and the neighboring houses. And then also asked what studies have been undertaken to preserve the warehouse, need to preserve the character of this prominent corner, consider an alternative use for the house, such as a tenant office, and might consider sacrificing the house depending on the final proposal for the other buildings. Provide comments for conceptual review and no action required. Standards for new construction apply and are provided on the staff report.
thank you for that. I missed that meeting, so I appreciate that review of the content. Okay, gentlemen, take it away.
It would be helpful to understand what's different.
It's okay if I stand over here?
Of course.
Please, well,
Yeah.
So think about how to start this conversation about what we're looking at today. And one of the comments, or several of the comments that came out of not just this last meeting, business meeting, but a couple of the other meetings and conversations we've had about this project, was really revolved around the height and the massing of the project as proposed. So if you can maybe just go to the next. I think everybody is obviously very familiar with the existing site as it is today. What our proposal is for the preservation of the tower building. And through various different design reiterations and conversations that we've had with the commission and others, there's been a big emphasis to try to preserve parts of the warehouse. Obviously, there's a discussion of can it all be saved? And I think the practical answer to that is no, but there are significant things that can be saved and preserved and integrated into the development. So that's the approach that we've taken in this new design. The dark red represents basically the footprint of what we're proposing above. In our proposal, since we're trying to keep the main exterior walls of the existing warehouse, our intent would be to keep the existing concrete floor as well. Knowing there's always a practical side of everything. You know, there's steel columns that are in the warehouse that are supportive to the roof structure of the warehouse. So obviously we've got to do something to take care of removing those columns, patching the floor, so on and so forth. But the intent is that that floor elevation remains as it is today.
I'm sorry to ask a question. When you say the warehouse, you're talking about the blue building?
No,
You're not
that's
talking
the
about-
tower
You're
building.
talking about the red building. All right,
Well, maybe let's go back to one slide here.
Okay.
This one.
all right,
So
great,
this
thank
is the
you.
warehouse building.
Yes.
we're referring to.
I remember vividly. All right, I want to make sure we were aligned.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
fair question, appreciate it. So, wait, I could use that. Mr. Sparkle. So our intent with our design, which we're going to be talking through, is that from this corner here, which is the back of the existing warehouse, so this was an addition at one point in time that it actually connected the warehouse and the factory building. So our intent is from here around to retain the existing and probably back some distance this way, to retain that exterior brick wall as it is today and integrate that into the design of our new building. And obviously, it would, as we talked here, to retain and renovate and preserve the existing tower building as well. Obviously, windows are going to be a big part of that conversation. We don't have that answer at this point in time, but I don't think that's really the purpose of this meeting, other than identifying it as an issue to be discussed. So this is what we're really trying to preserve, is this in here. And what we would use that ground floor warehouse space for is for parking for the new residential development. So in concept, what we basically are doing, and this floor elevation is down here, that's where that's at. So you can see it slopes up a little bit going this way. So the floor is actually depressed a couple feet inside. And so our intent is to leave that exterior wall, use that concrete floor as it is today for parking. And then basically build inside the exterior walls, basically bringing the building down and put it inside the parameters of that exterior building. So it's a little bit of a trick. It certainly can be done. There's certainly cost in doing it as well, but that's the effort that the owner is willing to take on to preserve as much of the integrity of the warehouse space that we can. Relative to the roof, it's a wood frame roof, doesn't meet any code requirements. And if we're thinking about, there's really nothing significant inside of it. There's wood partitions, there's an old, just a wood frame mezzanine that we use for storage. So there's really nothing inside that has any significance. So we can basically make it a big open space, build over top of it, and use that space. I guess that's the converting the garage. We don't have any intent to make any additional openings. We do have the intent to reuse that because that works out from an access standpoint for an ingress and egress out of the garage. Now it's a traffic issue as well. So we're going to have that conversation with the engineering department. It can be done. It's whether or not they allow us to do it. So,
John, is that but that's a single, that's a one car
yeah.
deal,
We have
so
other- and it's great entries in the back.
ingress, egress.
Yeah.
Okay, got
it. Actually, I know over here, we have an exit back on the backside as well.
Okay,
So this is going to be our primary entrance. And that's where the elevator core lobby space is going to be, pedestrian entryway as well. So that's primarily the second.
So this, sorry, this, so you're talking about the indirect ingress egress is for vehicles or?
Yeah, because this lower level is going to be our parking structure. Sure. So there's obviously issues with that because of the intersection of the distance here.
Yeah.
This is also fire department access. And just for the record, so that everybody's clear, our property line for this is basically right up against the building. This original road right of way still exists, and it's controlled by the city of Columbus. There's a very large stormwater collection system that's right in here underground, and that's active and still maintained by the city. So there's really nothing that we can do outside of the footprint of our building here. So I would encourage, as a sidebar comment, if there's ever a beautification project that goes back to the park, I think this could be one of them because this is just heavily overgrown, never been maintained. You guys can take a look and, but anyway, I get sidetracked. Anyway, so that's what we're trying to do from a concept standpoint. So if you go to the next slide, we can just kind of talk about this is the shape of the new. So this is the existing tower. This would be the shape of the residential building above. And then the dotted line is the existing warehouse that we would be reusing for parking.
so John, thank you. For demolition, it's a house and a garage, or I don't know if that's a garage back there or not.
Behind it or beside?
Yeah, I apologize, I missed the first meeting, but it's behind the house.
It's a block warehousing kind of,
Non-contributing.
Okay, and then.
definitely a bastardization.
Okay. And then this little thing would go over.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
It's the house.
While we're on that topic, the original house that's up front here was added on to probably twice. That back patio that has a catwalk, for lack of a better word, back to that barn-like concrete block structure was a whole other separate addition, but the main roots of the original building was added on to probably twice.
Okay.
It's been kind of butchered over the years.
That was, that was pre-1993.
We don't want to get far.
Establishment.
Yeah.
The establishment of the commission, so that those things happened prior.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so any other questions on this part of the concept design? We can go to the next slide.
Can I ask you a quick question? So have you talked to the city about using the original Whittier Street for access, or has that been put off the table?
We did have an early conversation, and I've been working on this on and off for a couple of years now. So we've had multiple conversations over time. The issue is that this is the fire department access that gets down here, and there's bollards back over here, and this is the fire department access up to the multifamily to the north here. So they need to maintain that. The problem is, you know, this alleyway right over here needs to be maintained as well, but that's really probably gonna fall on the burden of us to develop as a part of our project. But they, we asked if we could park over there and they, you know, because that thing is like right in here. And it's big, it's, you know, it's huge. And they just,
So John, are you not gonna use Bank Street at all? Is that what I'm understanding? Or you are gonna use it?
here and here are our entry.
Okay, so
But we're not going this way because we can't go anywhere.
how will you prevent that?
We'll be able to do something on site right down over here.
Okay, yeah, I don't wanna get caught up on it. I got it. Okay.
Yeah, so, you know, we got some loading, that kind of thing. You know, there's a service area back over here that we want to try to reuse.
And that part of Bank Street is an alley, and there's currently some new garages and carriage house we approved just north of this.
Yeah, that's fair.
Existing, so you can see now what the existing structure does in terms of the sight line to the existing tower. 2 or 3 story, and you can see right here, you can see through the image, that's the tower building back there. So you can even see, even this is a 2-story platform. If there was a 2-story building there with a gable roof of some sort, it's pretty much gonna obscure the view even at that scale. And then the 5-story. Then you go to the next view, which is kind of at the intersection, and you really, in reality, even with the existing today, you really kind of got to get to here before you get the dominant views of the tower building. And even at that, with the existing building here, it gets obscured. And even in our new design, where we're proposing that we keep this wall, that's going to have that kind of impact on that sight line as it exists today. And you can see the 3-story and the 5-story. So even in this, you know, that back corner, you can see how we're stepping back at that south end and on the east side to create as much relief there as we can, which is primarily, again, from here around. That's where you see that feature in that south face of the building, but that's where you want it. If you maybe go back to the very first one, you know, when you're coming to the north, you know, from this view, because of this tree, you know, you really don't see much of what's there. So it's really, once you get in front of it and even past it to where your views are, and that's again why we're creating an emphasis on that corner of the building.
With other houses in the neighborhood, we don't have anything that compares sort of, I mean, 5 feels very dominant to me compared to the other things. The residential thing, right?
What's the tower off of grade, John? Is it 5 from street grade?
Excuse me, could you people sort of, I know you need to see, but can you make sure that you try to speak into your microphone?
I'm sorry, did you hear what I said?
Just to make sure that it's recorded all.
Yeah, did you hear what I said? Do I need to repeat?
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Yeah, so I think right now we're talking about the height of the buildings. Cynthia was asking about the
Local,
overall scale of
Right.
local residential and whatnot,
right.
how tall are homes? And then I asked, how tall is the tower from street grade?
Have that information and I can get that to you. I just don't have it memorized.
I mean, just stories.
Well.
Is it 4 or 5, Daniel? 4. It's 6 from street?
Yeah, and the other question I have, is how do,
The warehouse finished floor goes directly into the first floor of
Right.
the tower building.
right,
Okay.
So that's right there. So there's one floor below this floor.
5 from Whittier is what I was getting at.
Thank you.
you know what I mean, from,
Yeah.
but also, how tall are those townhomes that we just talked about on catty corners? There are 3 stories with a 4th story
3
dog.
plus a dog house. So probably 48, 50. 12 times 4?
What is it? 3 plus a penthouse?
Yes,
No, no, just.
doghouse, like
Yeah,
access to the roof.
but the ones across the street are 3, right? 2, 3?
The homes?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah, I don't
2
know
plus a
what's there.
peaked roof.
Frankly, even though it's on that street with you.
You got a street view? And I think there's one more view that was looking further south, which is.
I really appreciate the fact that you did this. It's very helpful.
Well, this is what we heard you asked for.
Thank you.
So even here, it's interesting that, from the far end, the first one we showed you and this one, don't really see much of the site at all. It's not really until you get, again, within this boundaries of the intersection where you really get the boundary.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the tree, that you point out, John, I think that thing's probably a bit long in its life right now. So I wouldn't, place too much on that, but I think your point that the intersection is where you appreciate the tower is a good one.
Okay, so then if we can go to that other one, we can get into the actual design concept. This was another one we did, all right, forgot this one. But it's coming, from the park, driving eastbound, the existing building would be there. And then we can kind of see, so not right, it only goes here. Right.
So the good news is you can see the tower from the park.
Yeah, so this is all the vegetation that we don't control.
But it would be nice if this project moves forward, if you could work with the city to clear out the undergrowth and invasives. So, the quality of that alley, John, and the quality of that plant material and it sort of looks like forgotten territory.
Oh, it definitely. Yeah. It is. And
Hardly a
even-
ceremonial entrance.
Even on this side, it's really not maintained.
Yeah, it's really,
They did a little bit of upgrading when they did the Audubon Center,
Yeah,
but it's minimal.
yeah.
all right.
Anyway, just to get that out there. There was the other PDA that we had, showed that design image there.
Oh, you mean back at the
Yeah, this one. So, this is one of Dan's quick sketches. And, so, this is basically about at that intersection where we were looking at. This is the brick wall that we're proposing to retain back to the corner where it turns back. This would be our entryway, both pedestrian and car downward to the parking lot. And residential above. And one of the things from an inspirational standpoint, we took away at the previous or first meeting, actually, very first one, with this whole sightline issue here was this corner of the building is acute. So it's a little funky. So what we did is we took it the opposite way. Site plan, this one here. Yeah, so what we ended up doing, instead of trying to, which our first design was we were holding that corner and trying to make something cool about the shape of that in the building. We basically did the opposite and splayed it this way and then stepped it back. So we're playing off of that corner. We're not copying it in the design concept. And by doing that, then you go next. Doing that, you know, this phase and this first floor place are not parallel. And one's like this and one's like that. So we're trying to open it up this way, you know, by stepping it back, you know, on an angle and then stepping it back at a level to get this concept of openness at that corner, which again is the dominant corner of the site. It's really the only, I mean, you see the facade, but what we tried to display to you in those images that we just walked through was coming from the north, driving southbound. You don't see much of the site until you're in front of it. And I think that's what's a little unique about this site is that there's an element of surprise really coming from both ways, the north and south. And you come across this very striking concept design and the whole story about what it is. You know, we use a lot of buzzwords, you know, preservation, restoration, transformative, adaptive reuse. You know, this project contains all of those things. I think that's the story that we really want to tell here. Yes, there's some story that, how much say this? There's a little bit of a loss, you know, and I understand that standpoint in the sense that the warehouse itself, but the warehouse is still there. We're just building up inside of it and giving it that adaptive reuse of another life. We're converting it, transforming it. You know, we're adding to the community. You know, we're making a serious statement about, you know, the integrity of this site and the importance to preserve it. So when you look at the components, you know, this building is getting preserved and renovated. Warehouse buildings getting preserved and integrated into the new design. The site in itself is an old factory. It's zoned as a factory. So we have to go through the rezoning process and it'll be transformed into a residential community. The tower building, the developers been talking to the city about the workforce housing, and you know that's on the table, and there's nothing finalized because here's where we are with the project today. So that is an ongoing conversation that I think is important to the story as well, in terms of how the space is being converted and given a new use that is of demand within the community, not Columbus, but within this particular community. You know, we can get as granular into this conversation if you want. You know, this is our concept design. We haven't worked through all the materialisms and the exact colors yet. We've actually looked at probably about 5 or 6 different color schemes, even at this level. But the concept is to do something striking. You know, not crazy as in like, oh, you know, kind of thing, but something that has a lot of character. It's got a lot of authenticity. Its character and detail and colors do integrate into the community. And really trying to build this as an anchor development that becomes very much an icon to this community.
John, can you share some development stats with us? What is the yield from both buildings after both buildings are occupied? How many units are we getting?
I don't have it memorized. It's changed like 50 times.
Well, I mean, I'll cheat for you. The site plan.
Back here, I think is what it was back over.
How many?
here. 35. They're all like.
37 is what you had said.
Okay, so 35 plus, or 37 plus 64 is the total for the whole site?
Yeah.
And what's the average square footage per unit?
Well, these ones are smaller back over here because those are mostly studios. So they're around 500-600. And then typically the average is about 850. You know,
So market rate apartments, normal sizes.
Yep.
And what's happening on the top floor of the proposed new build?
This is just parapet wall. You know, we don't.
No, I mean, in the glass level.
Right here.
Yeah, what's happening to the
It's
glass?
all residential, right, John?
It's all residential.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there was, you were marking it as something else.
No, sorry, I misunderstood. It's all residential.
Those will be premium units.
Oh, these.
And so, John,
Up here.
yeah. So you would, your parking's at 0.67, which is a nice aggressive number for residential
Well,
downtown.
we had more, but just for clarity, we lost parking when we made the commitment to retain the warehouse floor.
Right.
So that was not our decision, but we're willing to make that decision in order to retain the warehouse.
Why not go taller? Just go with it.
Okay.
And for the new build,
Yeah,
Well, that was the first one we came in here, was a 6-story building. You know, the site is zoned at 60 feet. You know, and that goes back to when it was, well, it still is known as a factory. But that's why that building can be what it is, the entire site.
So where are you at then? Are you just under 60?
My store is typically around 55, 58. So if you're thinking that line of variances kind of conversation, we're trying to get the height within the confines of the existing. The parking, we can get more parking, but that means we have to do more with the warehouse space.
You need a parking variance, right?
We don't need a parking variance.
Yeah. Anyway, so, I mean,
What were you
that
thinking,
doesn't stop
Jeff?
us. I'm just asking. I
Okay,
just want to know if like construction type or building type is holding you to that height, or
We know one more.
if the group does or doesn't want more height.
That's a good question, Jeff, and I appreciate it. You know, with this only being a 4-story, we can keep this, well, 5-story, so we're still in type 3, but we don't need a true podium structure.
Uh-huh.
Cast in place concrete.
Yeah,
If we added a floor, then we would.
okay.
So there is an impact on the constructability.
The reason I asked Cynthia is because if it goes taller, we're not going to see more or less of the,
Yeah, I understand.
Is the new building
It's around-
shorter than the warehouse building? Or is it about the
It's
same?
about the same.
Okay.
There's a doghouse up there. The stairs on the tower go all the way up through, so there is a little bit of space up there that's truly.
John, what was your thought process on the east wall above the warehouse? Is that technically flush with the warehouse below?
All the way over here or here?
No. The main east
Oh,
wall.
east, I'm sorry, here.
Yeah,
You mean
that whole
the
facade, that whole
here?
green facade.
Yeah, this was-
You guys been the transition? to
Yeah.
here?
Yeah, how do they relate in
Well,
plan?
the new building's gonna have to sit back,
That's
because
what
if
I
you have whatever, thickness of a wall there is, we're gonna need a gap there from a constructability standpoint, and then have our new construction. So there'll be an offset here, probably in the, 15 to 18-inch range.
And you actually want to, I think you want to make it feel like it's been inserted into.
Well, it will be. I
No,
mean,
I'm saying,
from a constructability standpoint.
play it up.
So what do you see through the windows?
Because the structure line for these buildings, it has to come by the existing wall down to the ground. We have to build new footers inside the existing
Yeah.
footer. So there's a challenge in doing that.
I'm saying
We're
from,
planning on using that wall for bearing.
yeah, that makes sense, but I'm saying from a design standpoint, to me, there's a nice synergy between new build, old build, where you're actually taking something and growing something out of it.
Yeah.
It feels like there's a separate,
No, our intent, this detail is to cap the existing wall and make it water safe and preserve. And that sounds easy, but
John, so what do you see when you're walking by and you look in there? Do you just see concrete walls?
we don't see cars.
So is it, the building will be on podium or something, or?
No, the existing,
Because it's set inside the building.
yeah, so we'll have to build a structure to support the new building.
Right.
But that new structure will be inside the boundaries of the existing walls. So,
I think Connie's saying it's building columns, not a building wall.
Yeah.
Is that
That's what I'm
insert?
asking, yeah.
yeah, we'll have a steel column being detailed to support that first floor of the residential. So it won't be a concrete slab, at least I'm not thinking of this.
Yeah.
It'll be more of a column and being
Steps down.
picking up the bearing walls for the residential.
Drill it in.
We haven't done that cost evaluation. It could go to concrete, but I wouldn't
Well,
expect it to.
Connie wants to make sure that we can see in through those historic windows, which I
Yeah.
think is a good point.
I mean, there's windows in them now, so we.
We just want to make sure we can see through them, yes.
Well, if I can, the floor inside that warehouse is not at grade, it steps down, there's a ramp to drive in. So windows are above where the floor is.
Yeah. I mean, we would if we could, actually open those up and do some sort of architectural metal work there, because then we could use that as our ventilation for the garage. That's a concept.
Do we want to, I think we've heard a good description of it. Do you want to go down the line with all of our thoughts and comments and
we haven't talked about the house
let's talk about the house.
and
Okay.
And I don't know, is there anybody in the audience who has comments, or did anybody fill out speaker form, or?
Any speakers first?
Okay.
So, can I talk about the house first?
Please.
Okay. Now, your files do have a structural report in there showing the
Which
integrity
we've
or
seen,
lack of
which
integrity.
we've seen before. Yeah.
As I talked earlier, and I don't know if there's a picture available. But you can see, this was an addition at one point in time. This actually was an addition, and then of course that whole balcony and deck and walkway above and this two-story garage was all an addition at one point in time. I'm sure you read the report, but this wall is going this way and it's falling out. All of the floors are rotten out. From an economic standpoint, it's hard pressed to see the reasoning to try to keep something like that, because if I were to look at that and try to renovate it, I'd pull all that stuff down and strip it all out and want to add on to it. I wouldn't want to make my house smaller and spend that kind of money on a smaller square footage to renovate and repair and make it livable. So there's just a lot of common sense, economical issues that make this thing really pretty cost prohibitive to try to renovate. To try to restore it back to its original integrity. You're removing so much of the building, then patching it back.
Except I think there's no one on this panel, I don't want to speak very big for myself, I could give a crap about the garage or the additions. They all, to me, should not stay. If it's extended, it would be a sensitive, it would have to be a sensitive extension. If you had to keep the house, what impact would that have on your?
Well, it'll change the whole footprint, that site,
I understand, how big of an impact is it?
well, we leave this much of the site. I mean, right now, our design,
No, we're not talking about the garage. We're only talking about the two-story house.
Right,
John, do you
the
have,
original house.
I don't think you do in this deck. I think it's hard for us to understand where the house is on this plan.
well, if we go back to that picture.
Been inside.
So, as you guys know, the property line's in the middle over here. So, in our design, we were holding 20 feet off the property line.
For the new build.
For the new build. Primarily because when you go back behind the building, the grade really falls down. This site, as you go down this driveway, which is right here, you'll see it. It gets to be quickly about a 10-foot level change.
Right.
From this driveway to this backyard. So knowing that we have to be cutting into here, we're leaving a decent size of land here. We also have fire separation issues, code issues that we got to deal with, make it easy. So if we did take this house down, you can really kind of think about it, because our warehouse is over here, you can barely see the driveway right here, so it's like right here. We're losing this much of the site. And that's probably 50 lineal feet.
Is the garage, that sloped roof garage, is that connected to the building? Yeah. Daniel, if we were to, let's say,
Is there any way?
John played along with us and he built this project and kept the house intact, what would the separation need to be between the house and the apartment project?
Our building.
I know, I'm just asking, I know where this is headed, John, I'm just asking a question.
Because this is approximately where the existing curb cut is for the existing drive. So that's the existing house that we're removing, and that's the gap between the buildings. So if we kept all of that, then we're literally losing this much of the building for the full depth.
But from a code separation,
They
Daniel,
would just have to have a windowless wall
on the apartment project,
on the apartment project that was probably one out.
and
So-
what kind of distance separation?
You could go up to 0, but they just couldn't have any openings in the new wall.
15 feet gets you 35%.
So
Straight up?
if you went 50 feet, so that's what you're saying, the garage, if you took that 50 lineal feet, which includes the garage, you give you that 15 feet.
Well, there's two things for the purpose of separation. One is the code. The other one's purely constructability, because this building that's next door over there, it's like right on the property line. And there's such a big grade change there. I feel we need a little bit of a cushion, because we have to build a retaining wall to basically hold.
But the building could be the wall.
Sorry.
The building could be your retaining wall.
Yes, it will be. It'll have to be structured as a retaining wall. So
I mean, it looks, yeah, I think we're struggling, John, because it seems like that piece of property is 25 feet wide, 30 feet wide.
Yep.
And it looks like that's in the same footprint as just the stair tower component. By the way, no, I don't think anyone's, I'm certainly not saying no right now. I'm just trying to understand all the moving pieces here. So if I go back to the red plan, page 3, Louis, please.
It's that little bump out.
It almost looks like the bump out is the house. If you squint.
Yeah, John. I mean, because the frontage, yeah, because then you can see, you can draw the line. Right, with the other houses.
If you had to build around the house, just the house.
Around the original two-story only portion of that
Couldn't
house.
you-
How many units do you think lose? Because I'd like to set up this for. I'm gonna save the house to lose how many units?
See the exact footprint of the residential that we have. But it would be in the ballpark of probably 6 or 7 on the ground floor, because everything, all of this has to shift. Just think of it that simply, you know, on and off and that kind of thing, so all that shifts, so we'd be losing units on the ground floor, or on the first floor from basically here all the way around to here. So it's, you know, 24 units. 24
John, do you
units.
own that house right now?
I don't.
Yeah, I own it. The project owns it.
So I'm just gonna lay my card on the table.
So about 24, Paul.
My opinion of this whole thing is, we're really gonna trade one house for 24 units. The city is in desperate need of housing. The housing vacancy in the city is at an all-time low, about 9%. And this house has not been developed in that environment. When is it gonna get developed?
I think we're just trying to build the rationale you're going through, Daniel.
I know.
We're with you.
I'm just sick of beating around the bush. Like, what are we doing here?
This is my first time looking at it. Just be patient for me, Daniel. I'm with you. I mean, you know, I mean, I'm be honest with you. All cards on the table, I'd put 15 stories here. Okay, I just wanted to beat that up again, but other questions about the historic home?
Have you approached the city and had the city inspectors in that brick front section of the original part of the house? I think it
I
would be,
believe there's a letter from the city that, I say condemned, but, you know, like.
well, that's what I'm getting at. I think in order for us to feel comfortable, it certainly would be helpful if the city would condemn that.
I can't say for sure, but I can say for sure there's been a letter issued because the developer, the owners had to do multiple, they were over there about every other day, fixing windows, fixing doors, because there's so many homeless people.
Homeless people are all over back in there.
Yeah, so.
It doesn't say
spending
condemn.
money every single day to.
It doesn't say that
Allow-
was sustained.
I know, but from a commission standpoint, it's difficult for us to,
I understand.
that's
I just hate to go.
fabric that's,
I hate to go the path of suggesting condemning because then that provides a path for others to not.
Well, it should be condemned, in my opinion, because it's a public health hazard.
I get that you're there. I really understand. I also really understand Daniel's point of view. Less one with Jeff here, but that's a different conversation. He's not surprised by that.
Yeah, so 2 questions. One, are you absolutely married to the entrance on Front Street for vehicular traffic?
What other choices do you have?
Well, that's what I'm asking. So the back, you know, ideally, the entrance for vehicular traffic would come off the back and you wouldn't have vehicles crossing the sidewalk. I realize you already got a curb cut there and there's other examples of that, but ideally, to me at least, the vehicular traffic would come in off the back. So that's why I'm asking those questions about Whittier as potentially an access point to get to the back of the building.
Do you think it's another
No,
approach?
it's something that needs to discuss, because there's a reason.
Right.
And so, this roadway is, it's only improved up to about this ballpark.
yeah, calling it improved be a stretch.
No, it's
It's really,
Whoever did the roadway, I guess Edwards probably did it when they built the apartments down there. It came,
I was gonna pull it up,
It's not approved all the way down.
No, it's horrible. I was just there.
Well, it's improved past whatever is this, Coast Street up here?
Yeah, that's, the cross street is where it really goes downhill fast.
Yeah, so I think it's Coast Street that's right up here in the next road.
Mhm.
So it's improved for about 50 feet past that. And then it just goes to a gravel road.
Can this take that
And
long?
this site that we're talking about in terms of removing this building, the
People-
right of way, right at this site here goes from a 40-foot or whatever it is, right of way down to 20.
Mhm.
So we've got a pinch point right here, just because of the public right of way it gets cut down.
We're talking 100 units. A lot of traffic.
But that's why we're going off